Chapters 9 and 10, Introducing and Concluding Your Speech. We've talked about the importance of organizing your speech, but the introduction and the conclusion will be vital to your speech. The average man thinks about what he has said, the above average man about what he is going to say. The introduction is an important aspect, and there are several purposes of introductions. The first thing you want to do is get the audience's attention. You want to grab them to make sure that they will listen to you and give them a reason to listen to you. In your introduction, you will introduce your subject, and you will also establish your credibility. There's a possibility as you further go along in your introduction to preview your main ideas. Now let's ask some questions, a quick checklist about your introduction. Does your introduction accomplish its purpose? So the first question is, does it get your audience's attention? How do you make sure that it will? Use an illustration, a startling fact or statistic, a quotation, humor, a question, a reference to an historical event or to a recent event, a personal reference, a reference to the occasion, or a reference to a preceding speech. Be aware, once again, that it must grab your audience's attention. And then you want to make sure that your audience has a reason to listen. Tell your listeners how the topic directly affects them. Why are you giving this specific speech to your audience? As we continue to look at, does your introduction accomplish its purpose? Does it introduce the subject? Remember that you want to get your audience ready for what you're about to talk. Make sure that you present your central idea to your audience. Does your introduction establish your credibility? What gives you the reason, the deliberateness, the power to discuss this? Offer your credentials. Tell your listeners about your commitment to the topic. And then, does your introduction preview your main points? Tell your audience what you are going to tell them. So use illustrations or anecdotes, startling facts or statistics, quotations, humor, questions, reference to historical events, to recent events. Use some personal references, references to the occasion or to the preceding speeches. These should guarantee that you have an effective introduction. Now let's talk about how you will conclude your speech. Chapter 10 tells us that the important aspect of a conclusion is what you're leaving your audience with. So the purposes of a conclusion are to summarize, to reemphasize the central idea, or reinstate the main ideas. You obviously don't want to go through your entire speech with details, but you want to remind your audience about what you have talked. Provide closure. Use verbal or nonverbal cues to signal the end of the speech. Once again, in conclusion is not the best way, but as you begin to get to the end of your speech, make your audience aware that you're winding it up. Don't stop abruptly. And then motivate your audience to respond. If you're informing them, you want to give them information about something, you want them to respond to this information. If you're persuading them, you might be persuading them to action or just to belief, but you want to motivate them to respond. Some effective conclusions might be illustrations or anecdotes. Some startling facts or statistics that would really pop at the end of your speech. Quotations, humor, questions, references to the introduction, or inspirational appeals or challenges. You'll have opportunities to listen to introductions and to conclusions, and hopefully by hearing those, you'll be able to draw conclusions about things that you might include in your introduction and conclusion.